All right. Thank you guys for having me. I'm here to talk about the creator economy and its impact on e-commerce businesses. So let me just start with a little bit of background on myself. I have been an entrepreneur at the intersection of marketing and e-commerce for a little over 20 years. My first company, Ampush, was one of the early software and services providers to Facebook's ads API. We helped companies like Uber, Stitch Fix, Dollar Shave Club scale their customer acquisition programs. We managed over $1 billion of Facebook ad media between 2010 and 2020. We eventually sold the business to New Mountain Capital, to Tenuity, which is one of their portfolio companies. And after that, I ended up acquiring a content business that evolved into Grapevine.ai. And I'll tell you a little bit about it. These are supposed to be playing, but all influencer ads. Um, Grapevine is a kind of content marketing platform. We help brands source this authentic creator content on demand. Specifically, we're in the niche where we're working with more micro influencers and helping them get content for brands' paid social. So we're not just kind of paying them to post to their own organic audience, but instead kind of whitelisting and getting getting access to the influencer content to promote via paid video. And now today I own Grapevine through a venture M&A studio, I guess you could call it, called Artisan Ventures, where we're looking to acquire more interesting assets and scale them like we did with Grapevine. So the creator economy. Before we dive into the content, I want to share a quick anecdote. Back in 2012, when I was running Ampush, we had just signed Hulu as a client. And initially, when we were working with them, our main point of contact was a junior marketing manager on the display ads team responsible to figure out some stuff with Facebook. And then about 3 months later, I remember an analyst running to me saying, "Hey, Nick, can you really join this meeting? The CMO of Hulu was just added to the call." And so I came in, and the CMO is just frantic about having to report to the board in a week or two about all the Facebook metrics. And it was this aha moment for me, which was that, hey, wow, this Facebook thing is becoming like a board level conversation, and that's really critical. And what I would posit is say, creators and having success with creators is kind of having a similar type of rise in terms of importance to the success of an e-commerce brand. And I'll walk you through why I think that. So quick agenda. I want to, kind of give the overview of the creator economy as how I see it. Talk about what business impact looks like if you implement creators really well. Walk you through a little bit of the rabbit hole. There's a lot of jargon and taxonomy, and it's just not all influencers are created equal. And so walk you through some of that. And then talk a little bit about how to diligence it if you're looking at an e-commerce business that you own or are looking to acquire. And we'll hit on some go forward trends. So we know the story here. I mean, creators have taken over not just social media, but all of media. For the purposes of this conversation, I really want to hone in on the part of the creator economy that deals with digital marketing and marketing for e-commerce. So, we're not going to talk about Joe Rogan and all the stuff in the broader creator economy. Just a few quick stats. I think this is a pretty obvious point, but creators have been on the rise. There's over 70% of brands. I think that stat is actually probably understated. Are adopting creators. It's getting an increasing amount of spend share, and over 100 million people identify as creators. And I think this is the big part, which is it is leading to ROI. So a category doesn't just go, it can go to 1 billion in e-commerce just from a testing budget, but you can't go to 20 billion or even 40 billion without driving true ROI. And so that's kind of what we're seeing in the marketplace. So the business impact, let's talk about how creators actually deliver tangible value. So there's kind of the headline stories. I like the Kim Kardashian example is obvious. She's built up Skims. It's created billions of dollars of enterprise value. And if you can find yourself a mega influencer to partner with, I obviously think that's a great idea. But I think what's more interesting from a value creation standpoint is how brands are leveraging micro influencers. And so there's this entire ecosystem of how you can manage small influencers that might have thousands of followers or 50,000 followers, even hundreds of thousands of followers. And the question is, how does that translate into business value? So I'm going to walk through this slide, which I ran my talk track through ChatGPT, and it said, hey, just, don't walk through this slide line by line. It's going to, you're going to lose everyone, but I'm going to try anyway. So this is a influencer ad for Madison Reed, or these are ads for Madison Reed. On the left side, you see a branded ad flow, branded creative leading to a branded landing page. On the right side, you see an influencer ad landing to more of an editorial style landing page. Now, the question is, how does this impact the bottom line? So first off, on a CPM basis, the social platforms, Facebook and Instagram in particular, might allow for a discounted CPM if it's because they just give preference to authentic content versus just kind of a branded ad for their user. So you get a 15% cut there. The click-through rate, right? The engagement rate naturally of a user for kind of authentic creator content is going to be a little bit higher. And it feels like a small number. Out of 1,000 impressions, maybe 7 people will click on the creator ad versus 5 people on the branded ad. But when you think about how that translates into cost per click, then you can be in combination with the CPM, the branded ad might see a $4 cost per click, whereas the creator ad might see a $2.30 cost per click. If you kind of price in a little bit of a bump from conversion rate just because they've been a little bit more qualified through a third-party testimonial, then you can see that CACs, when done right, can be over 50% lower when you leverage the creator flow right. And if you layer that into like a little bit of bump from just an average order value standpoint of retention, you could see easily how the LTV to CAC ratio could be as much as 2 to 3 times better when you're leveraging creators in the right type of way. So hopefully that makes sense to people. Happy to dive in later. So the creator rabbit hole, just to kind of demystify what does this industry landscape look like? First of all, not all creators are are equal. Obviously, there's the mega influencers like Kim K, Mr. Beast, but there's also just kind of a whole spectrum of large, medium, and small influencers. Large ones might really be at the top of the vertical. Medium ones have just a super interesting niche like stitching, and they might have hundreds of thousands of followers. And then there's small kind of fashion bloggers and just much smaller audiences that influencers with much smaller audiences, but they can still, in aggregate, kind of move the needle for a brand. In addition to the different types of influencers, there's different ways to engage with these creators. And so these are just a few of the strategies that we tend to see in the market. There's seeding, right? This is the concept of just throwing a bunch of free product to maybe 50 or 100 influencers using some type of platform, hoping that they post, tag your brand with a hashtag, and then see if that generates any buzz. There's organic influencer posting, which is kind of more of a hand-to-hand combat. Let's make a deal with this one influencer. Let's have them post to their followers. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what the brief and what the angle is that you want them to talk about. There's influencer whitelisting, which is what Grapevine specializes in, where you contract with them, but we're not asking the influencer to post to their following. Instead, we're just saying, hey, make the content, give us license to your handles, and then we're going to promote that content using our paid media dollars. And that's increasingly a strategy that's working well. And then there's other kinds of broader brand partnerships you can do, sometimes for those larger mega influencers. To go even further on the complexity of the space, a lot of what I've talked about is kind of central to the world of DTC and Facebook advertising. When it comes to retail, Amazon, Target, Walmart, they have their entire own ecosystems that you can leverage influencers and own media platforms kind of within their network. And there are a number of software vendors like Mavely or Shopify or affiliate programs like Impact that you could leverage to kind of tap in for your channels that are through retail. So the diligence, again, kind of a dense slide here, but if I were just in Acquiror shoes thinking about, hey, is this brand operating at peak performance when it comes to leveraging creators? Here are some of the things I would look at. One, how wide is their influencer portfolio? Are they leveraging 10, 100, or are they up to 100 to 1,000? Have they not tried any? I think that would be an important thing to think about. Have they done different offer testing? Have they done a little bit of seeding, but also kind of done some pay for post stuff? Are they whitelisting with amplification? There should be some diversity in engagement models with the influencers. Are they leveraging paid amplification, which is, to say, hey, this organic content worked really well. Let's bring it over to the paid side and really blow it out of the park. In this example, I think the best in class brands have 3 to 4 new concepts a week in terms of their paid media flow that they're testing that are largely coming from kind of creator voices. And organizationally, this one's an important one. I could spend a whole session talking about all the organizational challenges with this, but are people working well together? Sometimes, especially with larger brands, you'll have the brand team that's trying to control the voice and feel alienated when creators are taking the brand voice in different angles. Is stuff streamlined there? Is the organic influencer team supporting the paid media team in the right type of way, or is there friction there? So, is there cross-functional alignment? A lot of orgs I've seen have just kind of come up with growth orgs to kind of streamline all of this stuff. But that's definitely something to diligence. And then lastly, is there strong tracking and analytics? So you should be able to track the ROI. This is not just a branding play. This is all can be measured by down funnel conversion metrics. And I've seen brands that have, in this day and age, you shouldn't be spending $10,000, $15,000 on influencer posts and not seeing the back end conversions out of it. You have to cut that and really be able to see the ROI of each individual campaign. Few trends just looking ahead. So I've talked a bunch about micro influencers, so I won't harp on that, but I think that's definitely an important strategy. And I echo what Kelsey said in the previous chat, that a lot of the organic influencer stuff, it's being tough to make it work. So it's really now become more a core strategy of your paid acquisition. Platform direct, so with TikTok shops on the rise, obviously we don't know exactly what will happen with TikTok, but there's disintermediation where the platforms are trying to go bridge a direct connection between brands and creators. So that's obviously something to watch out for. And lastly, AI obviously has huge impacts on any kind of workflow that deals with content and creative. I think there's a lot of levels here. The most extreme is, can you get all of your user-generated creator content from AI and have it fake? I think that's a pretty extreme view, but more likely there could be interesting, certainly leveraging AI in your content and editing workflow, but maybe there's opportunities where it's like, hey, you can license a creator's likeness and create derivative content using AI. I think there's no question that this is going to change the cost structure of the entire ecosystem. So just in closing, I think the key points here, it's large, the creator space is large, it's complex, it's nuanced, but the economic impact can be very real. In fact, I would posit it could even be make or break to a brand. And while sometimes it can feel like creator stuff and virality is somewhat, luck or black magic, I think there's a way to approach it very methodically. And I encourage you guys to look for those strategies. Thanks.